Welcome to an SFB Addict video.
SFB Addict here, another game playback from a cadet game that we are conducting. And this battle is a Kzinti heavy battlecruiser versus a Klingon heavy battlecruiser. Both, of course, are cadet ships. And let's take a look and see what we have here. So for the Klingon, we have 2 FA disruptors. On the Kzinti, we have 2 FA disruptors. For the Klingon, we have 2 FX phaser 1s, really good arcs. For the Kzinti, we have 2 FA phaser 1s, much more restricted. And then on the Klingon, we have 4 phaser 2s, 2 of which are FAL, FAR, and then 2 of which are to the right and to the rear, and to the left and to the rear, where the Kzinti has 4 phaser 3s, 2 left side, 2 right side. And then the Klingon has 2 drones, where the Kzinti has 4 drones. The Klingon has 3 shuttles, and the Kzinti has 2 shuttles. And if we take a quick look at the shielding, let's do a quick count. 20 shield on the number 1 for the Kzinti. 16 number 1 for the Klingon, number 1. But let's take a look at the side shields. 16, 12 on the Kzinti, 12 on the Klingon, 10 for the Kzinti, 12 for the number 4 for the Klingon, 12 for the Kzinti. So comparable shields, but some are stronger on the Kzinti and some are stronger on the Klingon. So the Klingon has slightly stronger side shields, 2 and 6, but the Kzinti has a stronger number 1 shield. Considering it's got FA disruptors and FA phaser 1s, whereas the Klingon has FX phaser 1s and FA disruptors, it's a little bit more important for the Kzinti to have a stronger number 1. Comparable power curves, 22 power for the Kzinti, 22 for the Klingon. Of course, for the Kzinti, much more of it is impulse than for the Klingon, but very comparable ships. So let me just move them to the side. And this is the window that we were using for the charts. Let me just maneuver it. Okay, so when I started the log file for the game, we were just going to jump for the first 4 impulses because there's a planet blocking the tracking between both ships. So let me quickly take a look here at the energy allocations for each ship. So this is Kzinti. So let me bring the Klingon over as well. I've got multiple turns in here, so I just only want to show you just the one turn that we're about to do. Okay. So 22 power total, 3 batteries for the Klingon versus 2 batteries for the Kzinti, so the Klingon's got a little bit of advantage there with reserve power. We have 2 disruptors, both of them coming in standards. The number 3 shield on the Klingon is being reinforced, so he's expecting to approach and fight from the side, and he's going speed 15. Whereas the Kzinti has got 2 standard disruptors, he's going for 4 general reinforcement, and he's coming in speed 14. And then they've got pretty much nothing else paid for in terms of any other systems. So both coming in fairly fast, standard disruptors. Okay, so let's just zoom through the impulses here. So we're up to impulse 5 at this point. So let me just scroll this over and bring up the chart, move it over here. There we go. It's about a good zoom level, I think. right around this point, they were just about to get into visual tracking of each other, then the Kzinti dived in behind the planet, which in my estimation is a mistake for the Kzinti. The Kzinti should have probably gone straight up, gotten out from the planet as quickly as possible, and tried to engage the Klingon up to the top left of the map, away from the planet, since he is the seeking weapon heavy player here. So the planet being between them is to the detriment of the Kzinti. So turning down, getting behind the planet is probably a mistake. But then again, these are newer players, and they're trying to use the planet as a shield, which in the long run is a valid tactic, but for the Kzinti here, it's probably not as useful as simply barreling in balls out at the Klingon. And the Klingon is similarly diving behind the planet, but for the Klingon, since he has fewer seeking weapons, using the planet is actually a good strategy, simply because he doesn't have as many seeking weapons. And when the Klingon does use his seeking weapons, primarily they're probably going to be to shoot down the Kzinti's seeking weapons. So with the Kzinti with 4 drone racks and the Klingon with 2, that essentially balances each other out, and the Kzinti ends up having 2 drone racks. Okay, so at this point they do have a direct line of sight of one another. And the Klingon fires, and he fires 2 standard disruptors, and he misses with one and hits with the other. So let's take a quick look at the Kzinti. Ends up doing 3 damage, reinforced by 4 points of general for 2, and does 1 damage. Okay, so here we have 2 phaser 1s coming back from the Kzinti at the Klingon, and 2 disruptors. And the Klingon also fires from the phaser 2s on the Klingon. So 5 damage to the Kzinti, and 9 from the Kzinti at the Klingon. So that is now the Kzinti's shield versus this for the Klingon. Actually, there's going to be 1 more point of damage applied here. And he actually takes it up to 9, but he then later decides that he wants to use 3 battery to reinforce it. So that simple's 13.
Actions.
So let me move that over here.
No actions.
And that's the end of the turn. So this is the adjusted damage on the Klingon, so he drained the 3 battery to reinforce. Okay, so we're doing energy allocation for turn 2. Okay, so again 22. The Kzinti is recharging his phaser 1s. He's coming in with overloaded disruptors. He's coming in speed 12. The Klingon, on the other hand, is recharging his 6 phasers, coming in speed 15, and throwing 1 point into recharging his batteries. Okay, so Kzinti coming in with overloads, with the Klingon turning towards the planet. So the Klingon could get behind the planet and stay behind the planet as long as he can to try and avoid the disruptor coming from the Kzinti. Okay, continuing on. Klingon coming in speed 15, Kzinti coming in speed 12. Okay, here they are blocked by the planet, and they're coming close to the point where they do have a line of sight. Nope. Klingon's too fast. Now the Kzinti is deciding to turn around. That was a mistake on the Kzinti's part right here. He should have side-slipped down here. And he should have turned right here. So if he had side-slipped down here, he'd be in this hex facing that way right now. Okay, so they have a direct line of sight. At least the Klingon does have his weapons to bear on the Kzinti's number 4 shield. And there's some drone launches going on here. This is the first time they're using the drone cards, so they're learning how to use them.
Open fire window.
Kzinti is returning launch with one drone. Simultaneous launch so the drones cannot be targeted on one another.
Launching weapon. Open fire window.
And now we're getting to the point where the Klingon's firing. He's firing an overloaded disruptor, standard disruptor, 2 phaser 1s, and a phaser 2. And this is the damage that they do. So disruptor hits, disruptor misses, 3 damage, 3 damage, 2 damage. For 14 to a 12 shield. So the Kzinti is probably going to reinforce. And do 2 internals. Lab hit and an impulse hit. Klingon turns away. Drones start flying.
Actions.
Okay, so again, if the Kzinti had side-slipped to this hex, he'd be turned in this hex facing that direction. And he would now be side-slipping. So he'd have gone here, turned, and side-slipped up. Meaning his very next move, he would then be facing direction A. So on this impulse right now, the Kzinti would be facing directly forward. The Klingon would be outside the FA arc, but he'd at least be getting very close. So on this impulse, the Kzinti would be side-slipping to the right, and the Klingon still is out of the arc. So even with the best maneuvering for the Kzinti, the Klingon still got away and stayed out of the arc. So that's the end of the turn.
Thinking.
Okay, so energy allocations for turn 3. Okay, so 22 power, still 21 for the Kzinti. Klingon recharges phasers again. The Kzinti didn't fire any, so didn't have to. What's going on with the Klingon disruptors here? Okay, so this turn the Klingon does not arm disruptors. He maintains high speed, throws power into capacitors, recharges batteries. Just to make sure I am on the proper turn here. Yep, we're doing turn 3. Okay. So, a fast Klingon recharging phasers is all that's happening here. For the Kzinti, overloading 1 disruptor, 1 standard. General reinforcement again. He's worried about that down 4 shield, although if this were me I would have put 2 of this point into fixing shields, so there'd be 1 repair on the shield by the end of the turn. He's slowing down to speed 9, and he's recharging batteries. So the Kzinti got a little bit demoralized there in that his overloaded disruptors weren't even able to bring to bear. And the Klingon danced out to range 10. Okay, so turn 3. We have Kzinti coming in 9, Klingon maintaining 15.
No actions. Thinking.
Okay, so you have a drone closing on the Kzinti, and we have a drone over here closing on the Klingon.
No actions.
Okay, we have some drone launches, and we have some firing. So this is the Kzinti firing at the drone, if I remember correctly. We are playing this over a voice chat, so a lot of the action's happening by voice. So again, Klingon is firing, and he missed and did very badly. And I believe that was firing at drones that was going on here. Yeah, the Kzinti fired at one drone, killed one drone, the other drone came out, he launched the drone at the drone, and it killed the drone. So that's what was going on with those original die rolls. And these die rolls, the Klingon was firing at the single Kzinti drone, but rolled really badly. And I believe he fired at the Kzinti with phaser 1s, I think, and just completely missed. Okay, so the Klingon killed the drone, and the Klingon killed the Kzinti drones, and the Kzinti killed the Klingon drones. So we're up to impulse 10. And now they're finally coming back towards one another away from the planet. Impulse 16, so it's the last impulse. And Klingon quickly turned around and started diving back behind the planet. And the Kzinti here is firing. 1 disruptor, 2 phaser 1s. Disruptor misses, 1 phaser 1 hits for 3 damage. And there's a battery used to reinforce. So this is the state of the ships at this point. That is the Kzinti, and that is the Klingon. So Kzinti is much worse off for shielding than the Klingon. And for the Kzinti, one of his overloaded disruptors dissipates, because he was never within range 8 of the Klingon. Okay, so energy allocation is done at this point, so let's look at them. So we're up to turn 4 here. Okay, so I'm just going to bring this over to D. Okay, so still 22 power, still 21 power. By the way, on turn 3, the Kzinti started repairing his impulse engine using continuous repair points. Sorry, no, we're not on D, we're on E. Okay, so this turn, he's recharging a phaser. Actually, his lines are different, aren't they? Yes, they are. So 11 over here is, yep, charging a phaser. So, charging a phaser, standard disruptors, speed 14, recharging battery. Klingon, standard disruptors, charging phasers, speed 15, recharging battery.
Launching weapon.
So, first impulse, we have drone launches. These are coming from the Klingon. So, notice where his ship is, where the opponent is, and where the planet is. So, if the Klingon goes forward or down in here, the planet will be blocking his ship to the Kzinti ship. So his next movement should be a side slip to the right and then a turn towards the Kzinti. But he doesn't do that. He side slips down.
No actions.
At this point, the planet is blocking tracking between the Klingon and the Kzinti, and drones are not self-guiding seeking weapons. They have to have active guidance from the ship, which means the ship has to be able to have a lock-on to the target, which he doesn't, which means the drones drop. So the Klingon just wasted 2 drones. Now, if he had side-slipped the other direction, he would have been fine, but that would have locked him into turning towards the Kzinti. He just wasn't thinking there. He was getting too used to using the planet for hiding. Okay, so now we're getting to the point where they're actually going to be able to shoot at one another again.
Thank you.
No actions.
So the Kzinti now has a shot at the Klingon. And we have some drone launches going on here.
Launching weapon.
Okay, so there's the drone launches for the Kzinti.
Open fire window.
And we have some firing going on.
Open fire window.
So Klingon fires 2 phaser 1s at the Kzinti. And the Kzinti fires 2 phaser 1s, 2 disruptors, one of which is an overload, one is a standard, and he rolls pretty badly. So Klingon reinforces with 1 battery. So 8 damage came from the Klingon. And hit the number 1 shield on the Kzinti. And we had 6 damage on the Klingon before, and we've just applied 6 more damage to the same damaged shield on the Klingon. So let's move that over here, I guess. And I'll put that back on the map. Okay, so that's the last impulse here. The Kzinti launched a shuttle on impulse 14. Kzinti fires 2 phaser 3s at the Klingon. Why not? It's range 4.
Thinking.
Does 1 damage to the Klingon, and it's the end of the turn. Okay, so now we have energy allocation done. So we're now up to F on energy allocation. So at this point, the Kzinti's impulse engine has been repaired. So on F, the Klingon decides to overload both disruptors, charges 2 phasers, he slows down to 7, and he pays for a high energy turn and rearms his batteries. Now normally you would put like a little W after the 3 here to indicate that it is warp power. But he did state to me that he was doing this over a private chat channel. Okay, so that is the Klingon. So he's overloading and coming in with an HET. The Kzinti, on the other hand, is coming in recharging phasers, standard disruptor, overloaded disruptor, speed 11, recharging warp. So look at the situation here. The Klingon is about to HET towards the Kzinti, and the Kzinti has 4 drones on the map. So let me zoom in here. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4 Kzinti drones on the board, 2 shuttles, the Kzinti itself, and the range is 4, and the Klingon is about to HET and come at the Kzinti. This is not a winning strategy. Remember, with Kzinti versus Klingon, the Kzinti has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 phasers that all bear out towards the front, whereas the Klingon has 1, 2, 3, 4 phasers which bear out towards the front. But the Klingon has to deal with 4 seeking weapons that are on the board, launched on the previous turn, and he has 4 more drones that he launched this turn coming up. That's more drones than the Klingon has phasers. So barreling towards the Kzinti is not a bright idea. So here we go. Kzinti launches another shuttle. Or sorry, no, Klingon. The Kzinti launched the shuttle on the 14th and on the 16th, and the Klingon is launching 2 drones now. And he's launching 2 of his drones at 2 of the Kzinti drones that are on the board. It's a good way to get rid of them. And they just agree to remove the 2 Klingon drones and remove 2 of the Kzinti drones. So here is the Klingon HET. You'll see that it resolves in a shield boundary, and since this Kzinti is moving forward and the Klingon is moving forward, that means it's going to be the Klingon number 6 shield facing the Kzinti, and the Kzinti's number 6 shield facing the Klingon. So not a good shield situation for the Klingon at all. Okay, so the Kzinti is down to 2 drones on the board. So since gentleman agreement was that the drones were launched on drones, they would not have reached each other yet. So at this point, the Kzinti just drops tracking of those 2 drones, which drops the Klingon drones, freeing up the Klingon to launch more drones, or the Kzinti to launch more drones.
Launching weapon fire window.
Okay, so a bunch of drone launches here. He's launching them in different directions, and then the Kzinti is firing. So the Kzinti fires with 2 disruptors overloaded, 2 phaser 1s, and 2 phaser 3s, basically an alpha strike. Why not? It's a nearly down shield. Klingon fires 2 overloaded disruptors, 2 phaser 1s, and 2 phaser 2s. And the Kzinti shuttle is firing as well, the one that was launched on 14. So the 2 disruptors, 6 and a 5, bad rolls, only 1 hit. And then the 2 phaser 1s, again, bad rolls, 6 and a 4. And then the 2 phaser 2s, 6 and a 3. So bad rolls for the Klingon at range 2. Didn't make the HET worth it. So that's 22. And here comes the Kzinti fire. 2 disruptors, good rolls, 2 phaser 1s, bad rolls, 2 phaser 3s, and mixed rolls, and 1 phaser 3 from the shuttle at a different shield, a very good roll. So it's 32 in total, but the shuttle is actually on a different shield, so it's 29 and 3. So let's bring that up, and we'll bring that up. Okay, so that is the end result of the damage. Klingon's actually in a fightable state after that battle hit. He took 3 weapon hits, but with the unique cadet rules, they're able to take weapons hits on shuttles that are still in the shuttle bay. It kills the bay and the shuttle, but it preserves the weapon. So the Klingon with 3 shuttles actually has a little bit of an advantage there. But after this hit, he's still in a fighting condition, but the problem is he's too slow with too few weapons left to deal with the drones. Whereas the Kzinti, he's pretty much no longer in a fighting condition, losing both a 6 and a 1 shielding, and he's lost a fair amount of power. And we have drones to deal with. Okay, so when the Klingon here is firing 1 phaser 2 at a drone, that's enough to kill it when he rolls it. And then he gets hit with some drones, which is 18 more internals to the Klingon. And then the Kzinti fires a shuttle phaser 3 at range 2 at the same down shield and does 4 more damage. So the Klingon is pretty much toasted at this point. And now the Klingon is going to try and limp away and gets hit with 2 drones on his number 4. Which is a pretty up shield for the most part. And does an internal and takes out a weapon. Okay, so that's the end of the turn. So what's going to happen here is the Klingon has to disengage, and he's got to go full speed this turn, which would be speed 5, which isn't going to get him anywhere far enough away from the Kzinti. The Kzinti's just going to come in barreling in top speed and overrun the Klingon and just kill the Klingon. So he can't come in full speed to do it that way. So there's disengagement by distance. He's too close to do it by distance. Just simply disengaging by running for the turn at high speed and then disengaging at the end of the turn. He can't really do that, he's not fast enough. There's only one other way of disengagement left to the Klingon, and that is sublight evasion. So he has to blow off his warp engines and then do a die roll to see if he can sublight disengage. And the die roll to do that is a 50% chance minus 1 for every enemy ship and plus 1 for every friendly ship. So it's a roll of a 1 to 2 for the Klingon to sublight disengage. And I believe that is his roll right there for the disengagement, and it fails. miserably. So the Klingon now loses the 2 warp engines and is coming in with only 3 power and 1 weapon. So needless to say, at this point, he's Kzinti meat. So what happens here is the Kzinti comes in, speed 6, Klingon's sitting duck at speed 2. The Klingon moves forward with his movement of 2, leaving his number 4 shield to bear at both the shuttles and the Kzinti ship. The shuttles move in, they shoot, they do some damage. He kept hitting security boxes on the bridge when he was supposed to be hitting excess damage. And finally he's done that. And then he survives the shuttle damage. He's got 3 boxes left, basically. And then the Kzinti ship moves in, fires a phaser 3. And survives. Then fires another phaser 3 on the next impulse when nothing moves, and the ship goes boom. And at this point, the Klingon ship explodes, and the Kzinti takes feedback of 2 times the Damcon rating, so it's a Damcon rating of 4, so that's 8 damage to its number 1. So the number 1 shield is down, and his 2 shuttles are destroyed. So Kzinti wins the battle. Klingon loses a ship. The Kzinti ship is still kind of fightable, because after this battle his shields come back up for the next battle that he incurs on the strategic game board. But immediately what comes in on the board here is I got that blocking it. There we go. Klingon cruiser, Cadet heavy cruiser, and it's going to be facing off against the Kzinti heavy battlecruiser, but the battlecruiser is not in any shape. So the Klingon starts the battle 20 hexes away. The Kzinti's got the energy to run and the turn to do it, so it disengages. So it's going to be the Klingon versus the Kzinti cruisers coming up. So that ship is going to be fighting that ship. So again, we've got 2 disruptors FA versus 1 disruptor FA. 1, 2, 3, 4 phaser 2s, 2 FX, and 2 which are off to the side in the rear, versus 1 phaser 1, and then 4 phaser 3s, 2 left side, 2 right side, and we have 1 drone versus 3 drones on the Kzinti. And 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 number 1 versus 12 number 1 on the Kzinti. So here the Kzinti is actually less strong than Klingon, but the Klingon phaser 2s are rather useless beyond range 8. But he's got a lot more of them than the Kzinti has. Same number of 2 disruptors versus 1 disruptor, and we'll take 1 drone off of the 3 for the Kzinti, so the Kzinti basically has 2 drones. So this is going to be an uphill battle for the Kzinti. So my prediction is that the Kzinti is going to lose this one if the Klingon fights longer range, because he just simply has a longer range firepower. So the Kzinti here can't play the battle like he did this one. He's going to have to close point blank with the Klingon. So he's going to have to fly fast, and he's going to fly directly at the enemy. He needs to get point blank range so that he can launch 3 drones point blank, and then make use of his phaser 3s point blank. And if we take a look at the damage of a phaser 3 versus a phaser 2, phaser 2 at range 1 goes from 5 to 3. So say if you take the 1 point off of the number 1 and add it to the 6, it's a 4 and a 4. So only 1 roll really is going to give a 5. Statistically, it's going to be 4 damage. But if we look at a phaser 3, 4s and 3s, so statistically about 3 to 4 damage, so it's roughly the same amount of damage. The Phaser 2 could roll really well and roll 1s and 2s for an extra point, and the Phaser 3 can roll really badly for 1 less point, but pretty typically is going to be roughly the same amount of damage. But a Phaser 3 is half a point to arm, where a Phaser 2 is 1 point to arm. So if we actually count up the number of directly forward-firing phasers, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 phasers that can do 4 damage each, 20 points of damage. That's more than enough to drop a shield. Whereas if we look at the Klingon, he's got 1, 2 phaser 2s that can fire directly forward, but then he's got 2 disruptors. So if we think of that as 4, 8, 9, 10, 11 for a disruptor, 10, 11, 12, plus another 6 for 18, the Klingon's actually got less direct firepower. Plus, the Klingon then has to deal with the 3 drones pumped out by the Kzinti. So, if the Kzinti gets point blank, he can win. If the Kzinti fights long range, he will lose. But that battle is yet to be played, and is coming up with the next video. Anyway, that's it for this battle. Hope you enjoyed it. Have fun playing Starfleet battles.